Years ago, there was a story published in Collier's magazine about a young girl that was at an orphanage. Truth be told, this young girl wasn't really attractive. She had several annoying habits. And as a result of that, the other children at the orphanage shunned her. The staff really didn't like her, and even the director was looking for an opportunity to transfer her to another facility. There was some discussion among the staff that this girl was writing notes, perhaps even to people outside the facility. So everybody was looking for an opportunity to get rid of her. One day a young child went up to the director and she said that she had seen this girl write a note and had left it hidden by a tree next to a stone wall. The director hurried out there and found that note. He read it, and then he handed it to his assistant. That note simply read, "To whoever finds this, I love you." We all have a need, a deep need within us to love and to be loved. Experts tell us that emotionally healthy people form meaningful ties with other people. Now, I would add to that spiritually healthy people form spiritually meaningful ties with other people. We don't just exchange information. We share personal things. We talk about likes and dislikes, about joy and about fear. We go out of our way to help others. But along the way, we have also learned to accept help when we come to a point where we're really in over our heads. When faced with important decisions, we turn to our friends for counsel, for advice, and for prayer. Over my lifetime, there has been a disturbing trend. According to the American Sociological Review, Americans have 1/3 fewer friends than they did a few decades ago. Now, this is true regardless of gender, age, race, educational levels, across all demographic lines. It's holding true that we have 1/3 fewer friends now than we did a generation ago. Now, you take that information, throw in a good pandemic, and what we are finding out shouldn't surprise us is that people feel lonelier and more isolated than ever before. When I was a child, there were two ladies that lived on the street. We lived on a dead-end street in South Alabama. And they got together and they walked every day. And it was only years later that I really came to appreciate what those walks meant for those two ladies. This wasn't just about staying in physical shape. This was about an opportunity to share life, to develop a lifelong, meaningful friendship between these two ladies. Author Bill Hybels picks up on this idea of walking and talking when he says, "I have learned that during these relational walks, neither the exercise value of walking nor the destination of the walk is important. What is important is having the opportunity to share thoughts and feelings in a relaxed, unhurried manner with someone we want to be with." The Bible talks a lot about friendships, the importance of making good friends, what we need to look for in good friendships, and also warnings about things that we need to avoid when we're looking for a friend. When I think about those friendships, particularly in the church among Christians, I'm reminded of these words from Ecclesiastes chapter 4, beginning in verse 9. "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If one of them falls down, the other one can help him up. But pity anyone who falls down and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Every sentence, every phrase in this passage is power-packed with meaning for us in our quest to choose friends wisely. I think about some of those phrases. 2 are better than 1. Pity the man who falls and has no one to help them up. And a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. I'm reminded in the church, when we talk about making good, remember that phrase, spiritually healthy relationships? That's the importance of having Jesus Christ as the center of our relationships. Our memory verse today in our lesson, Choosing Friends Wisely, is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. It's there that we read, "Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble." Now, we have studied throughout our time in Proverbs about this idea of contrast, that we would have part of the verse that talks about the blessing of doing something right, of following the wise path. But then there is what's going to happen, the downfall, the destruction that comes when we make unwise decisions. And that's what we read here in our memory verse of today. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. And so this part makes sense, right? If we want to make good decisions in life, then we need to look for friends who will help us make good decisions. If we want to be a kinder person, then we need to look for friends who treat others with compassion and with grace. If we want to develop stronger convictions, then we need friends who have this pattern of standing up for what they believe. And if we want to grow in our relationship with Jesus, then we need friends who have a life walk with the Lord. And that means they have established this pattern of Bible study and of prayer and worship and service. We've been able to see a difference in those individuals, and as a result of that, we know that that really can be a difference maker in our lives because we want to choose friends wisely. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul provides this warning for us, if you will, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. Don't let anyone fool you. Bad companions make a good person bad. Choosing the right friends can be a blessing, but the opposite of that holds true as well. Foolish friends can ruin us. If we let ourselves be corrupted, Scripture says we will suffer harm. And so we return to the book of Proverbs this morning. We want to look at the wise man's words as we address this idea of the need for good friends and reliable friends and godly friends. But how do we do that? I have to admit, our journey this morning is going to take us in a little unorthodox path. Because when we start talking about friendship and we think about the book of Proverbs, we are reminded like passages like Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17, where the wise man says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity." We're reminded of passages like Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24, where Scripture says, "One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." You see, those are the kind of passages that we would expect to hear today. But I have a feeling of all the passages in Proverbs we would expect to hear, we would least expect to hear this one from Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. Let's turn there and let's read this together. "There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to Him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Throughout our study, we have often seen these proverbs that have a blessing and then a warning. Two pictures, the wise man and the foolish man, but that's not here. That's not Proverbs chapter 6. In Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19, this is about as bad can get. And so really this part of our lesson focuses on the idea of this is what you do not look for in a friend. I want us to go through this list. Then we're going to come back and go through it a second time, looking for the positive end of this, of what is it then that we should look for. But let's start off with the warnings from Scripture. First of all, we want to beware of the person with haughty eyes. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 tells us, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. This is a person with a sense of superiority. Even when you look in his or her eyes, there is this sense of, well, I have value. You're worthless. I'm better than you. And friends, this attitude can even rear its ugly head in the church, where some people may look down on others with this attitude, this air of, I'm more spiritual than you. The second person that we want to avoid is the person with a lying tongue. Simply put, we don't want to be around a person who is loose with the truth. If we choose such a friend, here's what's going to happen. Sooner or later, we'll feel the hurt, we'll feel the pain that comes with this type of deception and betrayal. When we come to this next person, this is the person who has hands that shed innocent blood. Now, we think we're on the clear on this one because, man, I wouldn't look out. I wouldn't want to make a friend with a person like that. But there is a principle at play here, and it's the principle that I'd like to dig a little deeper to make sure that we can see that. The principle is this: innocent people can be destroyed in a number of ways. It happens every time those who are weak or powerless are harmed by those who are strong. This is the person who will use someone or hurt someone without any conscience, as long as it meets his or her needs. Now all of a sudden we recognize the importance of keeping this idea before us. We don't want to make friends with someone who treats other people like that. This next one comes to us is a heart that devises wicked schemes. Now, this is the person that can design, carry out, implement, and then turn around and immediately justify their evil ways, their sinful lifestyle. It's someone that can spend all this time plotting evil, doing evil, but they are quick to justify their sinful lifestyle. In other words, we want to beware of the person that looks to run towards sin and then try to justify it. Rather, we want to make a friend. Well, we'll get to that. But I'll go ahead and tell you, we're looking for someone that is running away from sin, not wanting to make excuses for their sinful behavior. I like this that I have written in my notes. Do we really want to walk with someone like that? A person with slippery character. Now, in several different places in Scripture, the heart that devises wicked schemes is connected to this statement: the one who has feet that are quick to run into evil. These two ideas of the heart and feet are connected. Number of passages throughout Scripture. There are some people that I am sad to say will spend more time looking for a way around the right way to do something. In all honesty, I've never understood that. of why we would spend more time and energy looking for a way around the right way to do something. I've often been reminded of this, that if you don't have time to do it a second time, then why do you want to take this first time to not do it the right way? And I think about how that impacts our relationships. We need to look for people that are looking for the right way to do things. Again, more about that in just a moment. We keep going through this list, and I keep trying to hurry to get to the positive aspect, because in all fairness, when we start going through and we're looking at this list of haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, and feet that are quick to run into evil, that's kind of negative. It's kind of a downer. But if you'll hang on with me just for two more, we will make our way to some positive traits that we need to look for in friends. But this is the warning part that reminds us, don't look for friends like this. All right, we need to get to this next one. This person is a false witness. Now, just a little bit earlier, we talked about the person with a lying tongue. But this false witness, it really is a specific form of lying. This is an intention to slander. This is the person that cannot wait to share bad news about somebody. Man, there's no ability or willingness to keep sensitive information confidential. This is the person can't wait to share bad news, and it doesn't matter whether it divulges confidentiality or not. They're out to harm someone's reputation, to discredit them. They want others to look at them poorly. You don't need to make a friend like that. And then this final idea is the man who stirs up dissension. I'm reminded of Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. It expounds on this idea when it says, "A perverse man spreads strife, and a slanderer separates intimate friends." Oh, that is a powerful statement from Proverbs 16, verse 18. Now that again, I said, is a lot of negative. I want to remind us of our memory verse right now. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. We've looked at the danger of associating with fools and getting in trouble. Now let's take it and turn the tables on this idea of walking with the wise in order to become wise. And here's how I want to do that. I want us to look at the negative. For instance, with the first one. The first item on that list was to beware of the person with haughty eyes. This is the person that is looking down on others, that says, I'm better than you. I have more value than you. Even if it's to the point of I'm more spiritual than you. So what's the opposite of that? What would be the opposite of haughty eyes? Well, it would be looking for a friend who is humble, who sees others better than themselves, Philippians chapter 2. The person who is looking out to serve other people. That's following the example of Jesus. And so rather than a person with haughty eyes, we want to look for a friend who is humble. So what about the next idea of a lying tongue? Well, we don't want someone that's going to lie. We want someone that's going to encourage others. We want for someone that's going to speak the truth. We want someone who calls us to a higher level of honesty. And so rather than person with lying tongue, we want someone, we're looking for friends that will speak the truth. Hands that shed innocent blood. You know, we don't want people that are going to use others and harm others, whatever the cause, whatever the consequence, just because they want to get their way. Instead, what is it that we want to look for? Well, we want to look for a friend who is tender-hearted and merciful. What a powerful statement. We want someone that will challenge us to extend more love and grace to others. All right, so we come to this next one. The person who is devising wicked schemes. Well, if we don't want someone that has a heart that devises wicked schemes, what is it that we're looking for? Well, we're looking for a friend with high integrity. We want friends who will raise our standard of character, not lower it. Again, this is closely connected to the idea that we want to avoid a friend who runs to evil, who can't wait to do evil things. So instead, what's the opposite of that? If we're going to look for a good, wise friend, we want to look for someone who hungers and thirsts for righteousness, someone who seeks righteousness, someone who wants to live right. Oh, we've got a good list developing here. We think about the person that is a false witness, someone that is looking to slander, that doesn't keep a confidence. So what's the positive side of that? What kind of friend should we look for then? Well, we want to look for a person who can keep a conversation in confidence. We want to look for friends around whom that we will feel safe. We'll feel safe talking to them. We'll feel safe opening up to them. And I'll tell you this, one of the reasons that a lot of people today don't have friends and have really just given up the whole search for friends is because we have tried that, and we've tried it just enough times that we got burned. And when you try that enough times and you get burned because the person can't keep a confidence, here's what happens, is you just burn out on the whole idea. This is a critical step in looking for a wise friend, is someone around whom we feel safe, someone who will keep a confidence. That brings us to the last idea. We don't want to be around somebody that is constantly stirring up dissension. And perhaps you've experienced that in the circle of friends, someone else will come in and they just have an ability to stir the pot and to keep it stirred. And there's always bickering when that person's around. And they have a way of dividing close friends and just causing that friction. We don't want a friend like that. So what kind of friend do we want? Well, here's what I would suggest to you, is that we want someone who will drive a spirit of reconciliation, that wants to help keep people together, to help bring people back together. That's what we want to look for in a true friend. Because, friends, that is a wise person who recognizes the importance of reconciliation and the importance of bringing people together rather than separating them. So there you have it. It's quite a list. It's a list of people that we want to avoid. There are just certain traits in a person that, you know what, that's not where we need to be looking as far as friends are concerned. We don't want to look at somebody with haughty eyes, with a lying tongue, that sheds innocent blood, that is constantly just bullying over people. That heart that devises wicked schemes, constantly looking just to do wrong, that's running toward evil. We don't want to look for that person that's a false witness, that's always talking bad about, always sharing bad news about other people. And we sure don't want a friend that's always stirring up trouble, stirring up dissension. Instead, we want to look for a friend that is humble, a friend that speaks the truth, a friend that is tender-hearted and merciful, a person with high integrity, a person who is looking for an opportunity to do good things, a person around whom we feel safe. And we're looking for a friend that will encourage us to reconcile differences with others and is looking to help bring people together. Now, so far in this lesson, we have spent a lot of time talking about looking for good friends. But in the last minute or two that we have together today, I want to ask us this. So if somebody else is looking for a friend, and they stop and they look at us, let's be specific here. They stop and they look at you, or they look at me. Into which category do we fall? Am I that person that has that traits that Scripture says, man, you need to avoid a friend like that. Or am I the person that is carrying those biblical traits that would tell that individual, hey, he'll be a good friend? You see, there is a lot to be said for that old adage that my mom taught me years ago, that one of the best things you can do in order to make good friends is to be a good friend. And so I hope that we'll take that to heart today. That yes, we are looking for friends that will help us grow, to be more like Jesus, to be wise friends. We're looking for that. But as we look for that, I hope that we will also strive to live that way so that others can find a good friend in us.